let's watch this tape. I'll kind of dig into it. Here's what I did. As you guys know, I don't try to cherry pick. So I took the first series from the last 3 games of the regular season. I think on one of them was a 3-and-out, so I had to go the first. I think it was against the Vikings or something. I had to go 2 games or 2 series. Let's go into it. All right. Okay, here we are. The first thing I'm going to point out, and this is just, listen, this is the most infuriating thing in the National Football League to me these days. And I honestly think, I'll say this without, some of these D-line coaches need to be fired because you can read this every time. I know exactly. I watched this tape. I watched Rasheed Walker play. And listen, I know this is my job and everything, so I get it. But I watched this. It's their job too. I watched this tape. I can tell you exactly what he's doing on every single play. Maybe there's 1 or 2 plays where they might be running something trick that who knows. But just based on his stance, if I'm a defender, I can tell you which way the play is going, or at least what this tackle is going to be doing on every single play. So if I'm the defensive tackle, defensive end, linebacker out of this side, and I'm not reading this, we're making a huge mistake. So right away, we got outside handoff here. You don't necessarily love how he gets taller because his base gets narrow, but you love how he runs off the football. I was trying to get those hands inside, driving, extending, playing extended. Love it, love it, love it. We're going to see the same thing again. Again, you notice the stance, pretty obvious. Okay, the balance and body position, running off the ball. Now, not great footwork. Steps behind himself, second step in. You see the hands, and let's just back this up for people at home. Inside foot forward, leaned in. First step, he's this defensive end is going 2 hands, left foot, 2 hands down, trying to catch you. Okay, so can't be surprised by this. We get kind of extended by the defensive end. Not a great footwork, but does a good job of getting his hips to it and creating pressure. Obviously, this defensive end is going to feel pretty good about the way he set this up. But the fight is there. Now, toes out, body position is pointed towards the defensive tackle. In other words, he's leaning into this a little bit. And he's going to run the hinge. Love the way he finishes this. So he's coming down to help the center. You really want to leave your outside hand engaged here. And Myers has to come over and get all of this. Because if that defensive end, we'll show it a little bit later, if they chase, you got to be able to open up and make and get on the chaser, the defensive end. Now, the defensive end plays over the top. So what does Rasheed Walker do? A great job at just driving and trying to create some more space and finish in the block. So I absolutely love that. You can't see enough of it. You're not going to get that from the high level guys more often than not. Quite frankly, they think they're too good for it. So you like the youth right here and just being able to move around. So big fan of that. Now, this stance, regardless if he's in 2 or 3 point, this is a pass set. Okay? Every time he's got his foot out, kicked out to the point into the sideline. I don't know why coaches teach this. It's terrible mechanics, but is what it is. We know he's going back. I think he might end up getting a looper here. But again, you can read that pretty easily if you're playing defense. Now let's get into some more stuff. You don't like the hand placement. You don't like that he gets narrow, but you love the way this guy tries to drive with his hips. So we could work on a couple different things here, right? Particularly, you want to get a little bit lower. We call it gut dropping, but you really want to get your hands inside here to give yourself a little bit better chance of success. Having said that, because he really just keeps driving and working. Listen, there's not a lot of elite level defensive tackles in the National Football League, okay? So some guys might make you pay. Aaron Donald makes you pay immediately for doing this. Whoever's playing for the Carolina Panthers, I don't even know who this is. I don't think this is Derek Brown. This isn't Derek Brown. I shouldn't say it. I know it's not. He's not making him pay. He ends up dump trucking him. Love the effort. Love the way he's trying to finish. Pass pro. A little bit tall. It's okay. Now, this is the one I think we got to really just continue to build as far as you're down on the goal line. You know, you're one on one. You're kind of worried, is this guy going to slant, spike? He's going to jump outside. Better footwork here. Stay balanced. Okay, so he doesn't really go anywhere with the second, right? So he gets in kind of a stalemate position just by design, almost by the way that he blocks this instead of trying to gain ground with that second step, strike and drive through, roll your hips through. Doesn't really do a good job staying balanced. His hands are outside, ends up getting tossed right in the hole. And I think Aaron Jones ends up running through this and making a play. But again, listen, this is all stuff you can improve on. And this, everything we've shown so far, aside from the stance stuff, which is honestly a really easy fix. It's just they're not paying attention to it. Everything's footwork, and it's not feet. He's got good feet. He needs better footwork. Okay, huge difference. Just coaching. Okay, we got pass pro, loops back in. No big deal. Now, everybody at home, just try to guess what he's doing right now. Okay, so this is what we talked about. You can see he's kind of leaning in, and he's going to hinge it and settle back out, but he goes two hands in here, and so now he can't get back. So just a little technique thing, but now you're giving the defensive end an idea that maybe he can chase down that guard and get in the path of the running back here. So that he ends up getting in on the play. Obviously, he doesn't get on the play if the play works perfect, but it's no excuse not to just leave that outside hand free so you can really ward that off. Again, 99% of the people out there are going to see that play because it's not a pass pro and he's the left tackle. I look at everything because everything matters to me. Good job kicking through this and just setting on that outside pressure look. You'll see with Rasheed, especially towards the end of the year, he's really trying to get deep and try to stay square. He doesn't always get there, but he's trying to stay as square as possible. Here's another one. Now, how big of a deal is it that we got a little bit of a chip here? Because really, Rasheed Walker steps underneath himself. That's a terrible kick. And you see he's opened up early. It's a terrible, terrible technique. But he's able to, and it probably promotes it a little bit because they can use that tight end to chip out. And again, when I talk about, maybe not thinking that they need to spend a first-round pick or they need to do this or that for a tackle, a lot of stuff that Matt does in his offense is using these tight ends to bump out on both sides. You see it actually here. They're bumping out both sides, especially in away games. They'll use the back to chip out. So they do a bunch of different stuff, and obviously they're moving the ball in three steps and all this. They do a bunch of different stuff to put these tackles in a position to be successful more often than not. So with that, and I can tell you for this firsthand, when you have that help, you almost feel like you don't need to use your technique. You just need to get back to a spot and just kind of play basketball. But the reality is that everything kind of matters and it sets you up for success in maybe different reps. We let him get a little bit close. Guy tries to spin, gets inside, gets banged around. Again, we know this is, if you look at this stance, looks a little bit different than the last one. And again, footwork. Okay. He's leaning in. So if you watch, 4 of these, you can figure out where he's going. Now, you got to gain ground and gain leverage on this first step. He steps underneath himself. So he puts Elgin really in a bad position here to get where he needs to get because he's not covering up and he can't make that play. This is just a footwork thing. So the cool thing is about like all this stuff is if you think you're a good developer of talent, like if you think you're a really good coach, then all you need to look at about Rasheed Walker, honestly, I could read on a scouting report. I mean, truthfully. Now, I'm talking about if you're thinking about bringing him in or not. You watch it and you go, okay, he's 6'6", he's 324, he runs this. We think that he's strong enough. We think that he's fast enough. And then you talk to him and you see what kind of guy he is. You talk to his coach, you see what kind of person he is. But you can just watch him kind of move around. Like, I don't really care. Like, when I see this, I don't really care because I go, no problem. Like, we can fix that in off season. This guy will have his footwork will be, 100% better. So you don't really care. But if you're not that kind of program, or if you're not that kind of coach, if you don't have that, then this stuff is a red flag because there are going to be plays in games where you go, you know what, you got to take better footwork or it's not going to happen. And we're not teaching you to take better footwork. So we got Pass Pro here. Love this extension. Okay. It's just top tier. So he does this enough where he punches and gets extended where you go, okay, he can definitely do this. Like this part of the game, he can do. He gets himself back, he gets himself into a good body position, and he gets punched and extended. So you're buying that space and that time for that second move for that defensive end. Remember, defensive ends want to attack your elbows, want to attack your armpits, want to smell your breath before they make a move. We want to keep them extended. Go here again. We can take probably a pretty good guess at what at the fact that it's pro. Now, when you get punched like this, you got to keep your feet in the ground. So when you have that contact, there's two things that are happening here. He gets kind of caught on the stutter bull. His right foot's in the air, but he doesn't ever really get a punch in. So this is just stuff again, where constant work on your craft. Again, very, very coachable. And it's not even that he's not being coached. This is just a rep thing over time. Some people get this real early. Some people have a great, college coach. Some people have a great high school coach. If you don't, and you get to the league and you're like this, well, you can just work on it. That's it. The more powerful he is up top, by the way, the easier it's going to be for him to sit down a lot of these bulls. People that say bench press isn't important, shoulder press isn't important, you're out of your minds. You're absolutely out of your minds. It does matter. Now, what you'd just love to see from a stance, doesn't it? And when you just look at Zach Tom and then you look at Rasheed, who do you think looks more explosive, knowing that this is pass protection? Like, who do you, if you were going to say, I bet you one of these guys can just explode out of that stance and stay in a great body position more? Zach looks like he's more loaded up and ready to go. Now, I think Rasheed does a good job here, no question. But because of the way that he's moving and getting those feet clicked together and everything, not really able to attack back with Elgin. And this happens fast, to be fair. And this is why the Vikings run it how they do. But it's hard for Jenkins to really get off like he wants to here. He ends up getting off late, and luckily the ball's out. But you just like to see all the transitions as fast as possible. So now we're going to have, it looks like he's squared up. So it's looking like we're going to have like some sort of play side run. He's probably running. Looks like he's going to run against the 4 technique here. Yeah. So he's a little late off the ball, but you see how the steps just kind of replace themselves laterally instead of gaining ground second and really trying to drive your foot in. And then he actually takes a backward step on his third because he's been shocked a little bit. But you want to go forward on your second, really recreate the line of scrimmage, especially when we have inside help. I always tell my tackles, you get paid to pass pro, you get famous by knocking the shit out of somebody when you got this double team like this. So if you have inside help and you can tee off on someone, this is where you knock a guy 3 yards off the ball. Every once in a while, you get a pancake block, right? You have those backside Bs. When you have help and you can tee off, you got to use it. When you're the horsepower and you can really move somebody, this is where you make a name for yourself. Got pass pro. Good extension, really. His hands kind of save him here. You don't love how tall he gets in that set. Like to be a little calmer. Okay, now we're back again with the play side run. Now, great result here. Okay, great result. But you see him giving up ground and whatnot. Now, this happens a lot in football, and ideally with these as players, and everybody falls into this trap. You just want to get out there and wheel. Now, all the bad things that can happen as far as the penetration, and then every time you turn your shoulders without having your hip across the play side hip of the defensive end, defensive tackle here, they can always play you over the top. So sometimes this works when the guy just buries his head and tries to bull rush you. But a lot of times this ends up poorly because you're crossing over, you're high, you're catching, you're giving penetration. And if the guy wanted to go outside, anytime you try to shut the door and you don't have your hip in front of his hip or upfield from his hip, you have problems. Now, having said all that, results matter, and this he does a good job here. The tight end certainly helps. He ends up getting the cutoff. Huge play in the game. You see the stance, you see the body language. He's leaning forward. He's obviously going to go out and try to block this five tech. Yeah, second step strike here. Really want to come down and pop and rise and think vertical, vertical, vertical because you're running up to this backer. Great job here. Now you can't fault anyone for doing their job and AJ goes backside. This is because Myers got beat. But they do a good job here getting the second step. He does a good job, Rasheed Walker, of getting second step at the ground and using that power. He is an explosive player. Look, you don't weigh 325 and move like he does if you're not explosive. So it's just a question of putting it all together on a consistent basis. Got pass pro again here. And he does such a good job of dropping that shoulder in, right? It shuts the door on this turn. I love when tackles do this. Instead of letting the guy kind of loop back outside, man, shut the door right there because you don't know what that end's going to do. And it gives your quarterback room to escape because you can stop penetration and stop progress right now by slamming the door shut. I love what he does here. Low to high, really takes out that Minnesota Vikings defensive tackle trying to run the TE game here. So even if Jenkins can't come back, you see Jenkins in a little bit of bad position. He got his arm beat here. Doesn't matter. Jordan Love can come back out and release. So excellent job by Rasheed there. Now we go to the last game versus the Bears. This is a screen, so he's giving up the ball on purpose. Big deal here. Tight end is in, gives him a little block, changes the trajectory of the defensive end. Right? Just that body presence changes the way that that defensive end rushes, right? And even if the tight ends, in other words, this is the thing about traditional right-handed offenses with the left tackle back in the day, is you never had the tight end on your side. He was always on the right tackle side. And so it changes the trajectory of the end because the end doesn't want to hit the tight end on the way out because it's going to ruin his pass rush. But that does mean he has to go higher and he has to be a little bit wider. And just from a timing standpoint, it makes it easier on the tackle. Good job, body position, hands. You see the TE game here because he sees that wide three technique. It's really like a four technique. Has the vision here to play this back drive on it. Can't see the whole clip, but he drives back on the defensive tackle. Great job. Now you see a little bit of a different stance here. Loses ground on that first step. Now he's such a good athlete, and quite frankly, 93 doesn't make him pay here. He's such a good athlete that he gets his head play side. Now, this is what we're always talking about. Don't turn, just run on your track. When you turn, you can get, he turns right there. You see it. Now 93 can beat him over the top. You just run, you get him downfield. He'll never get over the top of you, right? Unless you're 10 yards downfield. So just stay on your track. Again, it's a youth thing. It's a coaching thing. Definitely can overcome it. You see the foot kicked out. You have a pretty good idea what's going on here. Now, these are the situations that I think historically, when you talk about Rasheed Walker, are some of the areas of opportunity, right? Don't get your feet wide. Be a little bit more square to the line of scrimmage. Sit down, get those hips down. Don't get thrown around like that. Walker's a strong guy, but, you want to be able to sit down a little bit. Love this. Love this. Can't get enough of this. Now, we've seen this on tape multiple times from Rasheed Walker where he is trying to finish blocks in the run game. Can't say enough about what this does for the entire offense when you got a guy playing like that. I absolutely love it. Can't say enough good things about it. Okay. Back in pro. Gets the stab, gets the arm down right here. Fantastic job. Now, this is against Sweat, who they brought in and was real lighter fluid for their defense, quite frankly. Does a good job with the hands. So you can see the calmness, okay? It takes a calm guy to attack that elbow right there. Get back down. He's got a little hinge you don't care about. Again, it's one of those things where you're never right, you're never wrong, right? You're supposed to sift up. Great communication here by Elgin Jenkins. You actually see him talking to Rasheed. So Elgin's going to step down. He knows this guy because of the square stance is going to loop out. So Elgin does a great job communicating there. Comes through, ends up making the play. Now we don't get play side, we don't get the backer, but Elgin does a really nice job here. She does a good job of hearing it, taking the right footwork to get the cutoff, sealing that shut, creating a lane. Fantastic job all around. Good job using the tight end to slow the momentum and then gloving up Sweat there. Now, we showed it already once. Just the presence there helps, but you got to be consistent. So you see 95 here, doesn't even have a good get off, right? But now he's too close. Okay. You're not extended. Your hands are going to be outside. You're not in position power. You're not going to engage your hips when you punch. Okay. So you just get walked right here. And this is the one he's got to learn how to fix. He's more than capable of fixing it. Absolutely. But that's kind of where the question marks happen, right?